The Endeavour was a diplomatic vessel, but you wouldn't know it from the way it clattered through hyperspace. Somewhere between a rust bucket and a miracle of human engineering, the ship had seen more close calls than a thrill-seeking lemming. And yet, here it was, careening towards an interstellar meetup with the Zaltar, an alien consortium renowned for their curiosity about humanity's odd relationship with their own mortality. Captain Lysandra Keats, a woman who'd seen enough of the universe to know that it didn't much care for her plans, stood on the bridge, arms folded, casting a critical eye at the view screen. "How's the engine holding up, Fleck?" Fleck, the ship's chief engineer and professional pessimist, responded with his usual verve. "Like a toddler on a sugar high, Captain. It's running, but there's a good chance it'll either explode or just decide it doesn't want to play anymore." "Charming," Lysandra replied, smirking. "Any chance we can get to the Zaltar without one of those little surprises? Not unless you've got a magic wand hidden somewhere," Fleck chuckled. "But I'll keep poking it until either it or I give up." The bridge crew was a motley collection of cynics and rogues who'd somehow ended up in the most precarious position the galaxy had to offer, representing humanity when it was all too eager to dig its own grave. Beside Lysandra, First Officer Naya Reyes was running her fingers over a console, as if trying to coax it to life through sheer willpower. "Naya, any luck with the comms? I'd rather not show up to this shindig without sending a heads up." Lysandra tried to sound hopeful, but she knew better. "Sure, Captain," Naya replied without looking up. "Right after I teach these circuits to sing opera." Lysandra sighed. It was always the opera. The Zaltar were, of course, fascinated by the concept of human inevitability. More specifically, the way humans seemed to charge headfirst into it. The Zaltar themselves were practically timeless, living lives that spanned millennia without breaking a sweat. It was the kind of longevity that made them view humanity with a mixture of curiosity and condescending amusement. "Any idea how we're supposed to impress a bunch of immortals?" Lysandra mused aloud. "We could take up knitting," Fleck suggested from his lair in engineering. "Might be less dangerous than trying to navigate this hyperspatial junkyard. Or we could just show them how well we explode," Naya added, her voice laced with irony. "Seems like that's our main export these days." The ship shuddered, as if agreeing with her grim assessment. Lysandra clutched the arm of her chair, eyes rolling ceilingward. The universe, vast and indifferent, had long since stopped caring about her aspirations. Still, duty called, and like a bad joke, it wouldn't let her ignore the punchline. "Captain," came a voice from the back of the bridge. It was Ensign Phelan, the token idealist of the crew, fresh-faced and still holding onto the belief that the galaxy had some good left in it. "About the Zaltar. Do you think they'll want to, talk to us?" "Talk, sure," Lysandra replied. "Listen, that's a different story. Just be ready to smile and nod. And maybe duck," Naya quipped. "In case they decide we're not worth the effort." The hyperspace turbulence finally simmered down, bringing them face to face with the sprawling emptiness of the rift zone. It was a region known for its hostility to anything with a pulse, populated more by rumors of vanished ships than actual celestial bodies. A perfect place for a diplomatic meeting, if by perfect you meant likely to end in disaster. "We're through the worst of it," Fleck announced over the comms, sounding marginally less pessimistic. "But keep your fingers crossed." "Noted," Lysandra replied. "Naya, get us in range for a hail. Let's see if these immortals have a sense of humor." The comms crackled, spewing static like an angry cat, but eventually settled into a semblance of operational status. Lysandra took a deep breath and stepped up to the console, trying to present the image of a captain who wasn't constantly questioning the sanity of her career choices. "Zaltar Consortium, this is Captain Lysandra Keats of the human vessel Endeavour. We're here to discuss whatever it is you find interesting about us this week." The reply came after a moment's pause, delivered in a voice that was deep, resonant, and disturbingly serene. "Greetings, Captain Keats. We are eager to engage in dialogue with your species. It is not often that we encounter beings so enthusiastic about finite existence." Lysandra raised an eyebrow at Naya, who returned the look with a half-smirk. Enthusiastic is one way to put it, Lysandra said, turning back to the console. We like to think we're just really committed to making the most of our limited time. Indeed, the Zalter voice intoned, as if deliberating the finer points of a particularly obscure philosophical debate. We shall meet at the coordinates transmitted. Do prepare yourselves for our arrival. The transmission ended, leaving a silence that seemed to echo with the weight of the cosmos's least cheerful thoughts. Well, Naya said, breaking the quiet with her characteristic sarcasm. Looks like we've got a date. Yeah, and we didn't even have to swipe right, Fleck muttered, his voice still thick with static over the engineer's calm line. Get ready, crew, Lysandra called, trying to inject some semblance of confidence into her words. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn something new about the meaning of life, or at least how to bluff our way through this. As the Endeavour drifted closer to the designated meeting point, the crew went through the motions of preparation, each in their own way trying to ignore the nagging thought that they might be out of their depth. The Zalter were, by all accounts, more advanced, more knowledgeable, and infinitely more patient. In other words, humanity's polar opposite. The vessel finally settled into orbit around a desolate moon, the kind of place that looked like it had given up on being interesting several cosmic eons ago. It was a fitting backdrop for a dialogue that promised to challenge everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. "Ready, Captain," Naya reported, her fingers dancing over the controls like a pianist trying to coax a melody from an untuned piano. "All right," Lysandra replied, taking a deep breath as she moved towards the airlock. "Let's see what these immortals think of our little circus act." As the doors hissed open, Lysandra stepped forward, flanked by Naya and Fleck, with Felin bringing up the rear. They were met by the Zalter delegation, a trio of beings that seemed to ripple with an internal luminescence, their forms just on the edge of human comprehension. They were strangely beautiful in the way a supernova was beautiful right before it annihilated everything in its proximity. "Captain Keats," one of the Zalters said, its voice a symphony of calmness, "we are pleased to welcome you to this dialogue." Lysandra nodded, doing her best to maintain a veneer of professionalism. "Thank you for having us. We're looking forward to learning." "Ah, learning," the Zalter replied, as if savoring a fine vintage of wine. "Such a unique pursuit considering your temporal limitations." Naya leaned over, whispering just loud enough for Lysandra to hear. "I think they just called us stupid." Lysandra smirked. "Probably not wrong," she muttered back. "Just smile and wave." The meeting space was an open hall within the Zalter vessel, devoid of the clutter one might expect from a society that had everything it needed. The walls shimmered with a dull iridescence, creating the illusion of boundless depth. It was the kind of place that made you feel both small and significant, a reflection of humanity's contradictory existence. The Zalter regarded them with what might have been mistaken for amusement, if beings so ancient could still indulge in such a trivial emotion. "We have long been fascinated by your species' willingness to challenge inevitability," one of them said, its voice carrying the weight of centuries. Fleck, never one to miss an opening, chimed in. "Well, we do have a knack for getting in over our heads." "Indeed," the Zalter replied, seemingly unfazed by the interjection. "And yet, despite your precariousness, you persist." "It's either persistence or stupidity," Naya said, shrugging. "But why split hairs?" The Zalter appeared to ponder this, their luminous forms flickering slightly. "Perhaps it is both. A duality we have not observed before." Lysandra chuckled, feeling the tension ease somewhat. "We're full of surprises, sometimes even good ones." "We shall see," the Zalter said, their voices harmonizing in a way that suggested a deeper level of communication. "Let us begin our exchange." The conversation that followed was a strange dance of ideas, concepts slipping between the two species like phantoms. For all their wisdom, the Zalter seemed genuinely invested in understanding humanity's peculiar drive, as if hoping to uncover a secret hidden beneath the layers of folly and ambition. Time, however, was not on the human side. The ship's systems, as unpredictable as a gambler on a losing streak, began to flicker ominously. Fleck, ever vigilant, noticed the signs first. "Captain, we've got a problem," he said, his voice weighted with urgency. Lysandra shot him a glance, her jaw tightening. "Define problem. We're losing power. Fast," Fleck explained, eyes darting to the readouts. "And it's not just a glitch." The Zalter, attuned to the change, paused their dialogue. "Is something amiss, Captain?" "Just a small hiccup," Lysandra replied, her tone suggesting otherwise. "We might need to wrap things up soon." "A pity," the Zalter said, their serene demeanor unwavering. "But we understand the unpredictability of existence." As the crew scrambled to address the power drain, Lysandra felt the weight of the situation pressing down. The meeting, promising as it was, teetered on the brink of collapse, much like the ship itself. It was a reminder that, despite humanity's aspirations, some things were simply beyond their grasp. In the dimming light of the Zalter Hall, Lysandra steeled herself for the inevitable scramble. "Looks like it's time to test that persistence," she whispered to Naya. "Or our stupidity," Naya replied, smirking. "Let's see what breaks first." As the Endeavor's systems continued to falter, Lysandra could only hope they'd manage to limp through one more crisis. With any luck, they'd still have a chance to make their mark on a universe that seemed all too eager to erase them. The room hummed with uneasy silence, the kind that made your skin itch like the time you realized your pants were on backwards halfway through a meeting. Lysandra stood on the precipice of diplomatic failure, which, as she would tell you, felt remarkably similar to stepping off a cliff without a parachute. "Captain Keats," one of the Zalter began, its luminescent form shifting like oil on water. "We find your approach to life peculiar." "Peculiar. Is that the intergalactic term for batshit crazy?" Naya whispered, just loud enough for the humans to hear. There was a stifled snort from Fleck, which he tried to cover with a cough. Lysandra, doing her best to appear unflappable, offered a diplomatic smile. The kind that said, "Please don't vaporize us, we're kind of new at this." "Peculiarity runs in our DNA. Keeps things interesting when you know you're going to die someday," she said. A casual shrug followed, as if discussing the weather. "We understand you have a fascination with black holes," the Zalter continued, its voice devoid of inflection or judgment, which somehow made it worse. "And with the concept of death as an adventure." Lysandra exchanged a glance with Naya, who raised an eyebrow. "I guess you could say we like to live on the edge," she said. "Or at least pretend we do until the edge crumbles." The Zalter seemed to absorb this, their luminous forms dimming slightly, perhaps a physiological equivalent of a raised eyebrow. "Such recklessness," they finally said. "Is it truly bravery or simply a lack of awareness?" "Probably both," Fleck chimed in, arms crossed, an expression as dire as ever. "We humans have a habit of confusing courage with stupidity." "It's an art form, really." "Yeah," Naya added, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Some folks even call it innovation." The Zalter's flicker grew more pronounced, a sign they were engaging in some form of deep communication amongst themselves. Lysandra had a sudden, unsettling thought that they might be considering whether to quarantine the humans for the galaxy's safety. "You view death as an adventure," one Zalter said, as if testing out words in a foreign language. "Why?" Lysandra sighed, a sound that conveyed a wealth of exasperation and perhaps an ounce of existential dread. "Because if we didn't, we'd spend all our time hiding under our beds, waiting for the inevitable, or in our case, under our malfunctioning ship components." Naya nodded in agreement. "We've got this thing called humor. It helps us cope with the fact that we're all doomed sooner or later." "Humor," the Zalter repeated, as if weighing the concept. "A coping mechanism, then." "Exactly," Lysandra said, latching onto the opportunity. "We laugh because crying is just too damn depressing." The Zalter, in their inscrutable wisdom, considered this. "Perhaps there is wisdom in embracing the absurdity of existence," they finally said, their tone suggesting they weren't entirely sold on the idea, but were willing to entertain it, like a petulant child being dragged to a museum. The Endeavor shuddered again, causing a ripple of unease to pass through the human crew. It was a reminder that their ship, much like their species, was held together by little more than hope, duct tape, and the occasional prayer. "And what of your fascination with black holes?" another Zalter inquired, their gaze fixed on Lysandra with an intensity that suggested genuine curiosity, or perhaps concern for their sanity. "Black holes are the universe's way of keeping things interesting," Lysandra replied, her voice tinged with a trace of defiance. "Plus, we can't resist a challenge, especially the kind that might kill us." "You seek to challenge the cosmos itself," the Zalter mused, a strange note of respect creeping into their chorus of calm. "A bold ambition," Naya snorted. "More like a death wish, but sure, let's call it ambition." "Makes us sound cooler." Fleck, ever the realist, interjected, "Honestly, it's just high-stakes gambling. We're bad at folding when we should." The Zalter seemed to vibrate with a quiet intensity, their interest piqued by the humans' erratic, and to them, inexplicable nature. "Your species' approach to mortality is most intriguing," they finally said. "It is a perspective we have not previously considered." "There's a lot to be said for short and chaotic lives," Lysandra replied. "Keeps you on your toes, and occasionally on your back after a bad decision." As the diplomatic dance continued, the Endeavor's systems flickered again, more insistently this time, like a toddler refusing to nap. Lysandra shot a glance at Fleck, who was already glaring at a console, his face a mask of grim determination. "Captain, we're losing integrity on the primary power core," he reported, voice low. "If it goes, we're dead in the water, or whatever it is we're floating in." "Great," Lysandra muttered under her breath. "Just what we needed, another existential crisis." The Zalter, ever perceptive, inquired, "Is there a predicament with your vessel, Captain Keats?" "Minor technical difficulties," Lysandra said, wearing a smile that was more grimace than grin. "Just part of the charm of being mortal, you know." The Zalter regarded her with what might have been concern. "If you require assistance, we can provide." "Appreciate the offer," Lysandra said, "but we're used to muddling through. It builds character." "Or kills us," Naya added, not missing a beat. Fleck was furiously tapping at his tablet, a maestro conducting an orchestra of malfunctions. "If we make it out of this intact, I'm taking a month off," he grumbled. "Live the quiet life of fishing and pretending the universe doesn't exist." "That sounds nice," Lysandra said. "Maybe I'll join you. We can pretend to be sane together." "Is that a thing humans do?" the Zalter asked, curiosity piqued. "Retreat from existence to rejuvenate." "Yeah," Naya answered with a shrug. "We call it a vacation. It's where we go to lose money and argue with our families." "How fascinating," the Zalter replied, as if they had just discovered a new species of insect under a rock. The conversation lulled as the humans busied themselves with the increasingly urgent problem of not becoming a permanent fixture in the Zalter's diplomatic hall. The ship's systems groaned ominously, a sound that Lysandra had come to equate with bad news. Finally, with a resigned sigh, Lysandra addressed the Zalter once more. "Looks like this is where our little adventure ends for now. We'll have to continue this fascinating exchange once we've sorted out our pressing issues." "We understand," the Zalter replied, their voices carrying the gentle weight of the cosmos's patience. "Mortality, after all, demands much of your attention." "Yeah," Lysandra said with a weary smile, "but it keeps life interesting." With that, the humans made their hasty retreat, the Zalter watching them with expressions that, if one squinted just right, might have been interpreted as sympathy, or perhaps mild amusement. It was hard to tell with beings whose faces were more suggestion than substance. As the Endeavor pulled away from the meeting point, the ship's systems groaned once more, an ominous soundtrack to their departure. Lysandra took her place on the bridge, watching the moon fall away behind them, feeling the weight of their precarious situation like a rock in her gut. "Well, that could have gone worse," Naya said, flopping into the seat beside her. "Could have gone better, too," Fleck pointed out, never one to let optimism get the better of him. "But where's the fun in that?" Lysandra asked, her tone a mix of sarcasm and genuine curiosity. The crew lapsed into a contemplative silence, the kind that comes only after narrowly avoiding disaster. It was a familiar quiet, comforting in its own twisted way, like an old friend reminding you not to take life too seriously because, in the end, none of them were getting out alive. "Hey, Captain," Felon called from his console, voice uncertain. "Do you think we'll ever understand them?" Lysandra pondered the question, her eyes on the flickering stars outside. "Maybe not," she admitted. "But that's what makes it worth trying, even if it feels like banging our heads against a wall sometimes." Which, given the state of this ship, might actually happen, Fleck grumbled, fingers still dancing over the controls. Lysandra chuckled softly, a sound that carried more warmth than her usual cynicism. "It's the human way, I guess. Stumble through the dark, stub our toes, and hope we find something interesting before we bleed out." "Optimistic," Naya said with a wry grin. "Realistic," Lysandra corrected, with a side of gallows humor. As the Endeavor limped further into the void, Lysandra let herself relax, if only for a moment. There were no guarantees, no assurances of success or survival. But there was always the next adventure, the next challenge to face with grit and irreverence. And perhaps that was enough. For now, they were alive, and that was the best they could ask for, a testament to human stubbornness, if nothing else. And as long as they drew breath, they'd keep doing what humans did best: laugh in the face of the impossible and make their indelible mark on a universe that barely noticed their existence. The universe, as it turned out, had a wicked sense of humor. Just when the crew of the Endeavor thought they'd narrowly avoided one catastrophe, the cosmos decided to throw another their way. Lysandra Keats, captain of a ship barely holding together with a mix of chewing gum and desperation, was not amused. "Great, just great," she muttered, staring at the readout. The hyperspace engine was having what could only be described as a tantrum. The anomaly looming on the screen wasn't on any map she'd ever seen. It pulsed like a cosmic migraine, and it was pulling them in. "Well, that's new," Fleck said, glancing over her shoulder. His voice carried the enthusiasm of someone finding a flat tire on a rainy day. "Is that a gravitational anomaly?" "Looks like it," Naya replied, her fingers flying over her console. "Pulling us in faster than a black hole on payday." Lysandra shot her a look. "Since when do black holes have a payday?" Naya shrugged. "Since we started flying this piece of junk." The Endeavor shuddered, lights flickering. It was a reminder that, at the speed they were going, they were seconds away from being space debris. "Options?" Lysandra asked, though she wasn't particularly optimistic about the answers. "Pray," Fleck suggested, still focused on his controls. "Praying is good," Naya agreed. "Personally, I'd suggest trying to negotiate with the anomaly. Maybe flatter it a bit, pretend we're really into its cosmic aesthetics." Lysandra snorted. "My charm works on sentient beings, not spatial phenomena." "Well, here's your chance to expand your repertoire," Naya shot back, not missing a beat. As if sensing its primary prey slipping away, the anomaly exerted a final, irresistible tug. The ship lurched violently, sending crew members tumbling like dice across an uneven table. Lysandra grabbed the nearest handhold, cursing through gritted teeth. "Brace for impact," she shouted, as if they had any other choice. The universe blinked, and for a moment everything was surprisingly calm. A deceptive calm, one that whispered promises of safety just before the storm hit. The Zalter vessel had been pulled in alongside them, a shimmering phantom caught in the same trap. Lysandra could imagine their inscrutable annoyance at being yanked into humanity's brand of chaos. She couldn't help but wonder if they were reconsidering their diplomatic interest in such a volatile species. "Captain Keats," the Zalter's voice crackled over the comms, barely holding the serenity they were known for. "We appear to be caught in a gravitational anomaly. Could this be a human ploy? Trust me, if this were our doing, we'd have a better exit strategy," Lysandra replied dryly. "We like to live dangerously, not stupidly." Fleck, having recovered from the jostling, began frantically attempting to dissect the anomaly's data. "It's like a hyperspace hiccup," he murmured. "A pocket of twisted space-time. And we're stuck in its burp," Naya added, tapping away at her console with the fervor of someone trying to unlock a particularly stubborn phone screen. The Zaltar, whose method of problem-solving likely involved a lot less swearing, were consulting amongst themselves. Their luminous forms flickered as they presumably swapped ideas that would make even the most advanced human scientists weep with envy. "Your species' predilection for chaos is fascinating," one of the Zaltar noted, their voice managing to sound both polite and slightly accusatory. "Yeah, it's a real hoot," Lysandra replied, sarcasm dripping like engine oil from a leaky valve. "But how about we focus on getting out of here before we become permanent residents?" "Agreed. Coordinating our efforts may prove mutually beneficial," the Zaltar said, their tone suggesting they were agreeing to a mild inconvenience rather than a life-or-death collaboration. The humans and Zaltar began exchanging data, a frantic dance of information sharing that felt less like cooperation and more like two blindfolded dancers trying not to step on each other's toes. "Think they have a plan?" Naya asked, half joking, half desperate. "If they do, I hope it's better than ours," Lysandra replied, then focused on Fleck. "What's our status?" "Engines are still sulking," Fleck said, grimacing at the readout. "It's like trying to start a car with a carrot. We've got power but no direction." "Like my ex," Naya quipped, earning a tired laugh from the crew. Even in a death trap, humor found its way. The Zaltar, now fully committed to the joint effort, offered a suggestion. "Perhaps by synchronizing our energy outputs, we might counteract the anomaly's pull. Translation: we blow a lot of hot air in the same direction and hope for the best," Fleck interpreted. "Sure, why not? Let's give it a shot," Lysandra agreed, not bothering to disguise her skepticism. "What have we got to lose besides everything?" The crew set to work, aligning their ship systems with the Zaltar's. It was a delicate operation, akin to performing surgery with mittens on, but they managed, more from sheer willpower than skill. "Ready when you are," Lysandra said into the comms, fingers crossed more in defiance than optimism. "Activating now," the Zaltar replied, their voices tinged with a calmness so profound it was almost mocking. Both ships surged with energy, a coordinated thrust against the anomaly's grip. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually escape the cosmic clutches of nature's cruel joke. But the universe, ever the prankster, had one more twist. The anomaly rippled, a petulant child refusing to let go of its favorite toy, and pulled harder. The ship groaned, systems flickering like Christmas lights on their last leg. "Hold it together, girl," Lysandra whispered to her ship, as if sheer willpower could stave off disaster. The Zaltar vessel, shimmering under the strain, sent another message. "Our calculations suggest a weak point. A surge of directed energy might destabilize the anomaly. Basically, punch it in the face until it gets bored and lets go," Fleck translated with a grim smile. "Prepare for an energy pulse," Lysandra ordered, fingers dancing over her console with the kind of determination usually reserved for defusing bombs. The Endeavor and the Zaltar ship pooled their power, aiming at the anomaly's weakest point like knights charging a dragon's exposed underbelly. The burst of energy was immediate, a blinding flash that felt like a final, desperate gamble. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. The anomaly held them in its grip, laughing in the face of their defiance. Then slowly, reluctantly, it began to unravel. Space-time, as if bored with the game, slackened its hold. "We're free," Fleck announced, disbelief coloring his voice. The ships drifted apart, weary but victorious, like survivors of a particularly harrowing roller coaster ride. "Well," Naya said, breaking the stunned silence, "that was fun. Let's never do it again." Lysandra exhaled, relief washing over her in a wave that almost felt like nausea. "Agreed. Everyone's still in one piece." "More or less," Fleck replied, checking systems with the thoroughness of a man who didn't trust anything to work as advertised. "Captain Keats," the Zaltar's voice came through, calm as ever, "it seems our joint efforts were successful. Seems that way, Lysandra replied, her tone a soft blend of exhaustion and grudging respect, though I'd prefer not to make a habit of it. Understood, the Zalter replied, their amusement subtly detectable. Perhaps our next encounter might find us in more favorable circumstances. Yeah, let's aim for less deadly next time, Lysandra agreed, cracking a wry smile. The ships, now free of the anomaly's embrace, resumed their separate courses. The Zalter glided away with their usual grace, leaving the Endeavor to its customary chaos. As they drifted through space, conversation slowly returned to the bridge. "Think they'll keep talking to us after that little adventure?" Naya asked, her tone half teasing, half serious. "Probably," Flex said with a shrug. "We might be chaos incarnate, but we're interesting chaos." Lysandra chuckled, the sound more genuine now that they weren't on the brink of destruction. "If nothing else, we're memorable." The crew settled back into their duties, the immediate threat behind them. Even in the silence, the universe's endless expanse whispering around them, there was a sense of camaraderie, a shared relief at having survived yet another cosmic jest. "Hey," Naya said suddenly, "what are the odds we just inspired a Zalter version of humans are weird?" Lysandra laughed, the sound rich with the absurdity of their existence. "If we didn't, I'd be disappointed." As silence reclaimed the bridge, the Endeavor continued its journey, a testament to human resilience and folly. For now they were alive, and that was enough. Until the next anomaly, the next adventure that might end them, or, at least, make them laugh at the audacity of it all. And that, in the end, was the peculiar charm of being human in a universe that rarely cared. They'd continue to stumble through the stars, misstep into chaos, and somehow, against all odds, find their way back to the light, laughing all the while. "So, anyone else hungry, or is it just me?" Fleck asked, leaning back in his seat, the hum of the Endeavor's systems barely masking the rumbling of his stomach. The kind of rumble that made you wonder if your body was trying to communicate in Morse code. "After that cosmic roller coaster, I'm just glad we're not space dust," Naya replied, tapping at her console. "But sure, let's worry about snacks in the middle of a black hole crisis. You know what they say, Naya, never face a potential death scenario on an empty stomach," Fleck quipped, feigning seriousness. Strategic planning. Lysandra leaned over the navigation panel, her fingers dancing like a pianist trying to hit the right keys in a symphony of malfunctioning technology. Her eyes narrowed, every line etched into her face speaking of experience, fatigue, and just a hint of exasperation. "Focus, people. We're not out of this mess yet." The comms crackled, a reminder that the Zalter were still begrudgingly joined in this dance of doom. "Captain Keats, we have analyzed your proposed maneuver," the Zalter spokesperson said, their voice the equivalent of a serene eye roll. "It appears suicidal," Fleck snorted. "See, even the glowy space jellyfish think we're nuts." Lysandra smirked, the kind of smirk that promised nothing but more trouble. Well, they didn't nickname Earth the planet of charming lunatics for nothing. Naya turned to face Lysandra, one brow arched in question. "And you really think this slingshot idea will work? Well, it's either that or wait here until we starve or get sucked into oblivion. Personally, I prefer to go out with a bang, not a whimper," Lysandra replied, her voice a cocktail of defiance and dark humor. "Great motivational speech, Cap," Fleck remarked. "Really makes you feel all warm and fuzzy about impending doom. Trust me," Lysandra said, turning her attention back to the controls. "I've had worse ideas, and how many of those have worked?" Naya asked, already knowing the answer. "Roughly 30%, Lysandra admitted with a shrug. "But those odds have seen us through quite a few sticky situations." The Zalter, apparently trying their best to comprehend the human penchant for reckless bravery, chimed in again. "Humanity's fascination with danger is educational. Although this plan of yours seems less like a strategy and more like a gamble, welcome to humanity," Naya said, wryness coating every syllable. "Our most successful missions start as bad ideas." The Zalter paused, their luminescence flickering as if in contemplation. "We are prepared to assist in your plan," they finally said, sounding like they were agreeing to join in a particularly distasteful game. See, even they are on board, Flex said, grinning. Misery loves company. Lysandra took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the chaotic expanse of cosmic phenomena on her screen. All right, crew, let's prep for the slingshot. If we pull this off, we're having a toast. If not, well, at least we won't have to worry about fuel anymore. Naya worked her console like a maestro conducting a symphony of chaos. We just need to time this perfectly, or we're going to find out what it's like to be spaghettified. Finally, I'll know what it's like to be my laundry, Flex said, earning a chuckle from Naya despite the tension. The Zalter's ship began aligning with the Endeavor, a dance of precision that contrasted starkly with the chaos humans seemed to thrive in. We are ready to synchronize our maneuvers, the Zalter announced. Despite our reservations, appreciate the vote of confidence, Lysandra replied dryly. Let's hope this doesn't end up as our last hurrah. The ship's systems groaned in protest, the Endeavor straining against the anomaly's gravitational hold. A deep hum resonated through the metal bulkheads, a sound that either signified imminent collapse or the bravest attempt at freedom they'd ever made. Increasing power to the thrusters, Naya called out, her hand steady, her mind focused on the swirling chaos outside. The Zalter vessel mirrored their actions, a luminescent shadow in the sea of stars. We are initiating the maneuver now. All right, folks, Lysandra said, voice steady despite the chaos. Time to see if we can outrun the universe's sick joke. With a final burst of energy, the two ships hurled themselves towards the edge of the anomaly, the gravitational pull threatening to tear them apart. The Endeavor shuddered, alarms blaring like a chorus of mechanical distress. Hold together, Lysandra shouted, gripping the sides of her console as if sheer will could keep the ship intact. The universe seemed to hold its breath, the anomaly tightening its grip before reluctantly letting go. The ship shot forward, propelled by the slingshot effect, hurtling through the void with reckless abandon. We did it, Fleck exclaimed, disbelief mingling with triumph. Not dead yet, Lysandra agreed, feeling the adrenaline surge through her veins. But let's not start popping champagne just yet. The Zalter, still maintaining their infuriating calm, sent a message through the comms. That was an enlightening experience, see, Fleck said, smirking. We didn't die, and we taught the Zalter something about human ingenuity or insanity. Either way, it's a win. Lysandra exhaled deeply, allowing herself a moment of relief. Status report, Naya, we're functional, Naya replied, her voice tinged with the surprise of someone who had expected a very different outcome. Still have a few systems on the fritz, but nothing critical. Good, Lysandra said, allowing herself a small smile. Let's get back on course before something else decides to take a swing at us. As the Endeavor steadied itself, the Zalter vessel maintained a respectful distance, their luminescent forms still flickering in what Lysandra could only describe as bemused fascination. Captain Keats, the Zalter began, their voice tinged with a hint of what might have been admiration. Your methods, though unconventional, have proven effective. Unconventional is just a fancy word for lucky, Lysandra replied, her tone revealing just how close she felt to laughing at the absurdity of their success. Perhaps, the Zalter conceded. Nevertheless, we are intrigued by your approach. Stick around, Fleck interjected. You'll see it's all part of our grand tradition of making it up as we go along. Lysandra shook her head, the tension easing from her shoulders. All right, crew, let's chart a course back to sanity. I think we've had enough cosmic thrill rides for one day, Captain Naya said, a note of seriousness creeping back into her voice. What if we run into another anomaly? Lysandra chuckled, the sound weary but not defeated. Then we do what we always do, improvise and hope the universe is laughing with us, not at us. The ship settled into its trajectory, the engines humming with a semblance of normalcy. The crew, though tired and frayed at the edges, shared a rare moment of collective relief. Their shared glances and weary smiles spoke volumes about the bond forged in the fires of chaos. "Well, I don't know about you guys," Flex said, leaning back with a grin, "but I'm looking forward to a good, uneventful hyperspace jump." "Amen to that," Naya agreed. Lysandra nodded, the weight of command momentarily lifting. "For now, let's just enjoy the fact that we're still here, still kicking." The Zalter ship maintained its parallel course, their luminescent forms a constant reminder of their presence. "Captain Keats," the Zalter voice broke the silence, "we look forward to our continued cooperation." "Likewise," Lysandra replied, her voice carrying the warm resignation of someone who'd just learned to appreciate unlikely allies. "And next time, let's aim for less danger and more diplomacy." "Agreed," the Zalter replied, their tone suggesting the faintest hint of humor. As the Endeavor drifted through space, the void stretched out before them, vast and indifferent. But for now, they were alive, and that was enough. Until the next challenge, the next cosmic jest that would test their resilience and redefine their understanding of survival. And in that silent expanse, as the stars blinked in distant amusement, humanity's peculiar charm shone brightly enough for even the universe to take notice. As Lysandra looked out into the endless horizon, she couldn't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. "Here's to surviving another day," she murmured under her breath, the words a quiet tribute to their shared adventure, the victories and the calamities, and the strange, unpredictable beauty of being human. The Endeavor creaked and groaned, almost as if it shared the collective exhaustion of its crew. Lysandra Keats, forever the optimist in a universe that seemed to specialize in cosmic punchlines, scanned the control panel. Her smirk lingered, but who could blame her? They just launched themselves out of a gravitational bear hug and lived to tell the tale. "Hold on," Fleck called out, the grin from their latest escape still plastered on his face. "I think one of the alarms stopped blaring. Might be a record." "We'll put it in the logbook," Lysandra replied dryly, her fingers dancing across the controls. Right next to unintended thrill ride, Naya Reyes, her eyes glued to a console stubbornly blinking red, sighed. "We're not clear yet, Captain. Looks like the universe has one more trick up its sleeve." "Fantastic," Fleck muttered. "I was just getting bored." The Zalter ship loomed on the Endeavor's flank, their luminescent glow dimming somewhat, almost like a disco ball with a hangover. Their representative's voice crackled over the comms, serene as ever, which was irritating in its own way. "Captain Keats, our instruments indicate a miscalculation. We are now closer to the event horizon." "Well, isn't that just peachy?" Lysandra said, rubbing her temples. "Remind me to send my compliments to the universe's own math department." "So," Fleck said, "what's the plan? And please tell me it doesn't involve more slingshots." Lysandra sighed, staring out into the void that was beginning to look a lot less friendly. "Not quite sure yet, Fleck, but if anyone's got a miracle, now's the time to pull it out of your back pocket." Naya snorted. "I'll check my other pants. You do that while I try to remember which button doesn't blow us up." Lysandra's fingers hovered over the panel, weighed down by the gravity of their situation, both metaphorically and literally. The Zalter, ever the paradigm of frustrating calm, piped up again. "Perhaps if we consolidate our efforts, we can devise a solution." "Ah, teamwork," Fleck said, raising an imaginary glass. "The last refuge of the hopeless. Would you rather face the black hole alone?" Naya shot back, her sarcasm cutting through the tension like a laser through butter. "I'd rather face it with snacks," Fleck replied, his eyes momentarily looking wistful. "But that's just me." Lysandra's eyes flicked over the console again, the harsh glow of the red warnings almost searing themselves into her retinas. "Our hyperspace engine's still throwing a tantrum, so jumping out of here isn't an option." "Then we find another way," Naya said, determination hardening her voice. "We've come this far. I'm not planning on letting a glorified space drain finish us off." Fleck's grin widened. "That's the spirit. We can always count on the universe to keep things." "Interesting." The Zalter, perhaps in an attempt to grasp human humor or insanity, chimed in. "Your resilience is informative." Appreciate the backhanded compliment, Lysandra said, her mind racing through possibilities, each more ridiculous than the last. The ship, as if sensing the rising tension, decided to throw another tantrum. The lights flickered ominously, the alarms changing their tune to something more akin to a death march. Naya sighed, her fingers a blur over the console. We've got power fluctuations. If we don't stabilize, we'll be nothing more than cosmic spaghetti. Fleck shrugged, ever the optimist in his own warped way. I've always wondered what it's like to be part of a fine Italian dinner. Lysandra couldn't help but chuckle, a dark, tired sound that seemed to resonate with the ship's strained hull. All right, brainstorm time. Let's hear some bad ideas disguised as genius. Naya leaned back, her expression contemplative. What if we use the Zalter's ship to create a gravitational counterbalance? Risky, Fleck said, scratching his chin. But then I'm fresh out of not risky ideas. Sounds like a Hail Mary, Lysandra admitted, glancing at the Zalter's ship through the viewport. You willing to play along, shiny friends? The Zalter, their glow flickering like a light bulb with a personality disorder, responded. If it increases our chances of survival, we are prepared to cooperate. That's the spirit, Fleck said, clapping his hands together. Let's teach this black hole a thing or two about tenacity. The crew set to work, their focus cutting through the suffocating dread that had settled over them. The Zalter ship adjusted its position, its luminescent form weaving an intricate dance with the Endeavor. Powering up the thrusters, Naya called, her voice a steady beacon amid the chaos. Let's hope your crazy idea works, Captain, Fleck said, his grin both hopeful and ridiculous. Lysandra's fingers danced over the controls, the fate of their ragtag crew hanging in the balance. All right, folks, let's see if we can stick it to the universe one more time. The plan, as slapdash as it was, began to unfold. The Zalter worked in tandem with the Endeavor, the two ships coordinating their movements with a precision that bordered on miraculous. The gravitational pull of the black hole tugged relentlessly at them, a cosmic toddler unwilling to let go of its favorite toy. We're stabilizing, Naya said, her relief tempered by the knowledge of how quickly things could go south. But we're not out of the woods yet. Good thing we're not in a forest, Fleck quipped, earning an eye roll from Naya. The Zalter's calm voice interjected. Our calculations indicate a 60% chance of success. I'll take those odds, Lysandra said, her voice steady despite the tempest swirling around them. I've bet on worse. As the ships maneuvered, the universe seemed to hold its breath once more. The Endeavor's systems groaned in protest, the metal shell straining against forces that threatened to tear it apart. And still, they pushed forward, defying the odds with nothing more than grit and a stubborn refusal to give in. Thrusters to maximum, Naya called, her gaze unwavering. The Zalter ship mirrored their actions, their glow pulsing as they poured every ounce of power into the maneuver. We are approaching the critical point. Lysandra's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of their precarious position. Almost there, she murmured, willing the ship to hold together just a little longer. The universe, perhaps out of sheer bemusement, seemed to relent. The ship surged forward, breaking free from the gravitational stranglehold that had threatened to swallow them whole. We did it, Fleck exclaimed, disbelief mingling with triumph once more. Don't jinx it, Naya warned, her eyes still glued to the console, scanning for any sign of betrayal from their battered ship. The Zalter's voice crackled over the comms, a hint of awe coloring their serene tones. Your resilience and ingenuity continue to impress. Stick around, Lysandra said, her voice carrying a hard-won note of triumph. There's plenty more where that came from. As the Endeavor and its luminescent counterparts sailed away from the black hole that had nearly been their undoing, the tension in the air slowly dissipated. The crew, though weary and battle-worn, shared a moment of quiet camaraderie. All right, Lysandra said, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned relief. Let's see where we ended up. Naya's fingers danced over the console, pulling up their new position, her brows furrowed, a bemused grin creeping across her face. Looks like we're right on the edge of known space. Fleck chuckled, the sound coming out more like a bark. Figures we'd end up somewhere completely unexpected. Story of our lives. Lysandra couldn't help but join in the laughter, the sound somehow grounding them amid the vastness of space. As long as we're still breathing, I'm calling it a win. The Zalter, their luminescent forms still hovering alongside the Endeavor, maintained a respectful distance. Captain Keats, we are grateful for your cooperation. Our understanding of humanity has deepened. Glad we could be of service, Lysandra replied, her tone carrying the warmth of someone who'd learned to appreciate unlikely allies. Does this mean we're honorary Zalter now? Fleck asked, his grin as irrepressible as ever. The Zalter's glow flickered, their amusement somehow conveyed despite their alien nature. Not quite, but we look forward to future collaborations. The Endeavor drifted through the expanse, a tiny speck in the grand tapestry of the universe. And yet, in that moment, they were alive, defiant in the face of cosmic indifference. Here's to surviving another day, Lysandra murmured, her words echoing the sentiment of her crew. It was a quiet tribute to their shared journey, the trials and the triumphs that bound them together. And as the stars blinked down at them, the void vast and indifferent, humanity's peculiar charm shone brightly enough for even the universe to take notice. All right, let's see if we can't pull a rabbit out of this cosmic hat, Lysandra said, rubbing her temples like she was trying to squeeze out a miracle. She turned to the console, ignoring the blinking lights that seemed more like angry Christmas decorations. You think the universe takes refunds? Fleck asked, leaning back in his chair with a smirk that screamed what the hell else could go wrong. Not on your life, buddy, Naya shot back, her fingers dancing across control panels as if she could charm them into working with sheer willpower. We're stuck with this lemon till it dies or we do. Cheerful thought, Lysandra grumbled, squinting at a particularly irritating alert. But maybe we can squeeze some juice out of this lemon. Hyperspace resonance. There's gotta be something there. Resonance. Sounds like one of those New Age meditation tracks, Fleck quipped, folding his arms and looking entirely too relaxed for someone sitting in a pile of metal hurtling toward potential oblivion. Yeah, and right now, we need it to sing us a lullaby, Lysandra replied, scrolling through schematics that made as much sense as a toddler's finger painting. If we can find a harmonic frequency, we might stabilize our trajectory, keep us from becoming cosmic confetti. Music to my ears, Fleck said, then paused. Or whatever's left of them. Naya glanced up, arching a brow. And how exactly do we play this space symphony? Lysandra tapped her chin, a habit from her younger days when thinking was still a luxury. The Zalter's ship. Their systems might be able to amplify the signal we're after. We just need to sync them with the Endeavor. Let me get this straight, Fleck interjected. You're saying we need to wire up their ship with Iors like some kind of cosmic duet. That's the gist of it, Lysandra nodded, her mind already racing ahead, sketching out plans in thin air. We'll need their consent, of course. Don't want to go poking around alien hardware without asking. Consent in the middle of a death match, Naya muttered, shaking her head. Only you, Lysandra, Fleck grinned. Hey, it's like asking someone for their Netflix password during an apocalypse. Kind of bad timing, but what have you got to lose? Exactly, Lysandra agreed, turning to the Zalter on the comms. Hey, Glowsticks, you up for a little interstellar jam session? The Zalter's response was, as ever, infuriatingly calm. We are intrigued by this proposal. If there is a chance it will improve our predicament, we are agreeable. Great. Now let's see if we can make this marriage work without a cosmic divorce, Lysandra said, rolling her chair to another console. Fleck, you'll need to handle the connections. Naya, keep an eye on those power readings. We don't want to inadvertently find out what being microwaved feels like. On it, Captain, Naya replied, her voice containing a wry edge that only seemed to sharpen in the face of impending doom. As Fleck got to work, Lysandra began adjusting the Endeavor's systems, trying to coax them into a begrudging partnership with the Zalter tech. It was like trying to make peace between two squabbling children over a toy neither of them wanted to share. "Hey, Captain," Fleck called from beneath a tangle of wires and blinking lights. "You ever think about how crazy this all is? I mean, here we are, humans and aliens, playing mad scientist with tech no one fully understands. It's like the universe's worst science fair project." "Yeah, well," Lysandra replied, her voice muffled by concentration as she punched in commands. "The universe loves a good laugh at our expense. I just hope it doesn't decide to hold a comedy night at our funeral," Naya added, her eyes still glued to the fluctuating data on her screen. As the Endeavour and the Zalter ship began their improbable dance, Lysandra couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of something profound, or profoundly stupid. Either way, it was all or nothing. "Resonance parameters set," Lysandra announced, her fingers hovering over the controls. "On my mark, Fleck." Fleck's face appeared from beneath the console, a mess of cables clutched in his hands. "Ready when you are, Cap." "All right, let's see if we can make the universe hum our tune," Lysandra said, her voice steady as her heart raced. With a final input, the systems lit up, a cascade of lights that would look pretty if they weren't so indicative of their dire situation. The ships began to resonate together, the Zalter's luminescent glow pulsing in time with the Endeavour's shuddering hull. "Readings are stable," Naya reported, her voice betraying a sliver of hope. "Looks like we've got a chance." "A small one," Lysandra cautioned, but the beginnings of a smile tugged at her lips. "But it's better than none." The Zalter chimed in, their serene tones tinged with curiosity. "Your ability to adapt under duress is remarkable. We are learning much from this experience." "Glad to be your teachers," Fleck said, though his grin was tempered by concentration. "Just don't expect a diploma at the end." The ships continued their delicate maneuver, the space around them humming with a resonance that seemed to defy the odds. It was as if they were riding a wave, a ripple in the vastness that held them up just enough to keep them from tumbling into oblivion. "We're holding," Naya said, her relief evident even as she refused to look away from her monitors. "I think we're actually holding." "Don't say it too loud," Fleck warned, "or the universe might hear and decide to throw another wrench in the works." "Too true," Lysandra agreed, her hands steady on the controls. "But for now, let's just enjoy the moment while it lasts." As the Endeavour held its course, Lysandra felt a strange sort of peace settle over her, a momentary reprieve from the chaos. It was a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the universe, there was room for the unexpected, both the dangerous and the miraculous. The Zalter ship remained in sync with them, a luminescent partner in their strange interstellar ballet. It was a sight to behold, a testament to the power of cooperation, no matter how unlikely. "Now, if only we could harness this resonance to fix everything else that's wrong in the universe," Fleck mused, his voice carrying a familiar edge of sarcasm. "One miracle at a time," Lysandra replied, the corners of her mouth twitching upwards. "We're not exactly miracle workers, just stubborn survivors." "Same difference," Naya said, allowing herself a rare moment of levity. "As long as it keeps us alive." The ships continued their coordinated dance, the resonance a lifeline that tethered them to safety. It was a fragile balance, but for now it was enough. As time crept on, the frantic energy of the initial maneuver gave way to a more cautious optimism. They'd found a sliver of hope in the vast, indifferent expanse, and now it was about holding onto it with everything they had. "Think we'll get a thank you card from the universe when this is all over?" Fleck asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. "More likely a bill," Lysandra said, the absurdity of the thought bringing a brief, genuine laugh. "But if we make it through, maybe I'll send one first." The Zalter, ever the observers, added their own brand of humor or what passed for it. "We shall consider this a cultural exchange, though we admit this has been far more engaging than anticipated." "That's one way to put it," Naya said, shaking her head in disbelief. Who knew the edge of disaster could be so educational? As the two ships carried on, their paths intertwined by necessity rather than choice, Lysandra allowed herself a moment to breathe. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was a step toward one, and sometimes that was all you could ask for. "All right," she said, finally breaking the relative silence. "Let's not get too comfortable just yet. We've still got a ways to go before we're clear of this mess." Fleck nodded, his expression unreadable yet somehow reassuring. "Yeah, but at least now we know it's not impossible." "Small comforts," Naya agreed, her focus unwavering. "But I'll take them where I can get them." Together, the Endeavour and the Zalter ship pressed on, a testament to the strange symbiosis that had formed in the crucible of crisis. It was a partnership forged in desperation, but it was also a testament to the resilience of life in all its bizarre, tenacious forms. As the resonance held, the universe seemed to offer them a brief reprieve, a moment of calm amid the storm. And in that quiet, Lysandra allowed herself to hope, just a little, that they might yet find a way to defy the odds one more time. "Here's to whatever comes next," she murmured, her words a promise to herself and her crew, a promise that no matter what, they'd face it together. And as the stars continued their ancient dance above them, the Endeavour and the Zalter ship sailed onward, bound by the fragile threads of hope and the stubborn refusal to surrender. In that moment, it was enough. Lysandra Keats found herself staring at the console, which was now a seizure of flashing lights. The universe, she decided, must be like that one uncle at weddings, always turning up with just the wrong kind of energy. Today, that energy was embodied by the luminescent Zalter ship synced with the Endeavour. It was a delicate balance, like a seesaw where both sides were trying not to fling the other into a black hole. "This is it," Lysandra said, a hint of madness in her voice. "We're playing Russian roulette with the universe, and our only bullet is a choir of alien harmonics." "And that's the bullet you want when you've got one shot," Fleck replied, twisting wires with a dexterity that suggested he'd once played a mean game of Operation as a kid. "Although, knowing us, it'll probably just jam the gun." Naya, who was fixated on her console like it owed her money, chimed in. "If we pull this off, I'm naming my first kid after this resonance crap, or maybe after one of those luminous alien things, just to scare the crap out of the other kids." "Don't go making promises you can't keep, Naya," Lysandra said, punching coordinates into the control panel. "Let's just try not to become space debris." The Zalter chimed in from the comms, their voices a serene contrast to the tense atmosphere in the Endeavour. "Your focus on mortality and survival is enlightening. It appears to be a driving force of your species." "Yeah, well," Fleck said, glancing up with a sardonic grin, "it's not dying that's the real trick, isn't it? We've made an art out of it, like finger painting with dynamite." "Art or idiocy," Naya muttered. "It's a thin line." Lysandra continued to manipulate the controls, her fingers dancing over buttons with a deftness that belied the panic bubbling beneath her calm exterior. The ship's systems were reluctantly aligning with the Zalters, each one grumbling like an old man asked to give up his favorite chair. "Okay, team," Lysandra announced, her voice firm despite the chaos. "We're going to push this dance until the universe decides it's bored of watching us squirm." Fleck chuckled, popping his head up from the tangle of cables. "The universe is like a cat with a laser pointer. It's not going to get bored until we're exhausted, and possibly dead." "Let's try to avoid the latter," Naya added, her fingers flying across her keyboard like a pianist on a caffeine bender. The Zalter ship, its glow pulsing in eerie synchronization with the Endeavour, seemed to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. "We are prepared to assist in your maneuver," the Zalter voice resonated, calm as a placid lake in a storm. "Good," Lysandra said, swallowing hard. "Because if we screw this up, at least we'll all be cosmic dust together." As the ships orbited precariously near an event horizon, the plan was simultaneously simple and suicidal. Exploit the harmonic resonance to catapult them out of the gravitational clutches of a cosmic anomaly. It was the kind of plan only desperate fools or mad geniuses could conceive. In this case, both. "Remember, timing's everything," Lysandra said, adrenaline sharpening her senses. This isn't just about speed, it's about precision. Great, Fleck said, sarcasm coating his words like a well-worn jacket. So we're threading a needle with a sledgehammer. No pressure. Pressure's what makes diamonds, Naya pointed out, though her smirk suggested she had no illusions about the odds. Diamonds are overrated, Fleck mumbled, adjusting the last connection with a flourish. Give me good old-fashioned luck any day. With everything in place, Lysandra took a deep breath, the kind that tastes of last chances and unspoken prayers. All right, folks, on my count. 3, 2, 1, go. The Endeavour and the Zalter ship moved in concert, their shared resonance creating a force that defied the universe's wicked sense of humor. It was as if they'd managed to find the right note in a cosmic symphony, or at least stopped it from being a funeral dirge. The ship shuddered violently, a tantrum of metal and energy, but held together by some miracle of engineering, luck, and sheer stubbornness. The Zalter's glow intensified, bathing the Endeavour in an otherworldly light, making the control room look like the aftermath of a rave. Readings are stabilizing, Naya reported, disbelief mingling with relief. Can you believe it? We might actually make it. Don't jinx it, Fleck warned, though even he couldn't hide his grin. The universe loves an anticlimax. Lysandra's grip on the controls was ironclad, each muscle taut with focus. The combined ships were carving a path out of chaos, defying the gravitational vice that had threatened to crush them. It was like watching a house of cards stand up in a hurricane and somehow remain intact. The Zalter, witnessing humanity's desperate dance with death, seemed to gain a newfound respect for their peculiar allies. Your resilience is admirable. This encounter has expanded our understanding of your species, their voice intoned, filled with a strange warmth. Glad we could entertain, Lysandra replied, sweat beading on her forehead. Next time, though, how about a nice dinner instead of a death trap? Yes, the Zalter agreed, their glow softening. A less perilous interaction would be preferable. As the ships finally broke free from the gravitational snare, the relief was palpable. It was a moment that stretched, a breath held in time before releasing in a collective sigh of disbelief. We did it, Naya said, her voice breathless with the exhilaration of survival. We actually did it. Of course we did, Fleck said, nonchalance masking the relief in his voice. Didn't you know? We're the galaxy's best at not screwing up till it's almost too late. Lysandra let out a shaky laugh, the tension in her shoulders finally releasing. Remind me to never let you guys plan my next birthday party, she said, her voice tinged with genuine warmth. I don't think my heart could take it. The Zalter, having witnessed the ballet of human hubris and hope, spoke again. This experience has enriched our perspective. Your species approaches death not with fear, but with a kind of fascination. A strength born out of your mortality. Yeah, well, Lysandra said, brushing a stray lock of hair back with a wry smile. When death's the only certainty, you might as well make it interesting. The Endeavour, now cruising free of the stellar chokehold, felt more alive than ever, as if it too shared the crew's triumph. The ship's creaks and groans seemed almost cheerful, a mechanical celebration of having cheated the odds one more time. As the Zalter ship drifted alongside them, the two vessels shared a moment of strange camaraderie, a unity forged in the crucible of their shared ordeal. It was a reminder that sometimes the universe's cosmic joke could have a punchline that didn't end in tragedy. So what's next? Naya asked, her voice a mix of exhaustion and curiosity. Lysandra leaned back in her chair, feeling the weight of the universe lift just a fraction. The big question. For now, we plot a course and keep moving, one adventure at a time. Fleck snorted, rolling his eyes for dramatic effect. Just as long as the next one doesn't involve nearly dying. I'd like a vacation where I'm not on a first-name basis with disaster. We'll see what we can do, Lysandra said, her smile returning as she surveyed her crew, her family. For now, let's just enjoy not being cosmic confetti. The Zalter, their luminescence a steady, comforting glow, offered a final parting thought. We thank you for this encounter. It has been enlightening. Any time, Fleck replied with a mock salute. Just not too soon yet. And with that, the Endeavor and the Zalter ship parted ways, each returning to their own path in the vast tapestry of stars. As the ship sailed onward, Lysandra allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. In a universe filled with chaos and uncertainty, they'd carved out a little corner of triumph, not through power or perfection, but through sheer, stubborn humanity. And as Lysandra watched the stars streak past, she knew that was enough. For now, anyway. The Endeavor's control room was quieter now, a silence only interrupted by the occasional hum of the ship systems doing their best impression of a lazy cat purring. Lysandra sat back, a sigh escaping her lips, more relief than exhaustion. "Well," she said, running a hand through her hair, "that was fun. What do you say we find a nice, peaceful asteroid to hide behind for a few decades? Space tourism's got a surprising lack of vacation spots," Fleck replied, leaning against the console with the casual ease of someone who knew too well they should be dead. "Unless you're into radiation baths and getting mauled by space debris." Naya, who had been nursing a console like it was a particularly stubborn hangover, finally pried herself away to join them. "I hear black holes offer great escape packages. One-way trips, though." Lysandra chuckled, the kind of laugh that felt like shaking off a heavy coat after being caught in the rain. "I'd rather avoid any cosmic mysteries for a while. Might be good for the soul, but my blood pressure begs to differ." Fleck snorted. "Soul? In this universe? More like what's left after it's been sanded down by every crisis." Before anyone could add to the galactic slam poetry, the Zalter appeared on the main screen, their luminescent forms flickering slightly as they settled into focus. "We wish to express our gratitude for the shared experience," they intoned, their voices a blend of musical notes and what might have been sincerity. "Hey, anytime," Lysandra said, offering a lopsided grin. "But if there's a next time, maybe a nice interstellar coffee date, yeah. My heart can't take many more close encounters." The Zalter tilted, which was probably their version of a nod. "We are beginning to appreciate the nuances of human humor. It is unexpected and refreshing." Naya crossed her arms, a skeptical glint in her eyes. "Refreshing like a slap to the face, maybe, but thanks, I think." The screen flickered again, and the Zalter's glow dimmed momentarily, as if reflecting on some deep, cosmic thought. "Your resilience and peculiar approach to mortality have provided us with valuable insights. We now consider our diplomatic ties strengthened." "Great," Fleck said, "so long as that doesn't involve more gravity wells and existential dread." "Indeed," the Zalter replied, their luminescence warming slightly like a celestial nightlight. "We have much to learn from each other." Lysandra raised an eyebrow. "Such as?" "Your species' reckless courage," they answered with what might have been a tone of admiration. "And your ability to adapt in the face of insurmountable odds." Naya rolled her eyes. "Insurmountable odds are kind of our specialty. We're the universe's favorite underdog story." "Yeah," Fleck added with a smirk, "more like the universe's favorite punchline." Lysandra leaned forward, her expression softening. "Guess we're just built to keep going, even when it seems like the universe has it out for us." The Zalter's glow stabilized, as if reflecting a kind of internal harmony. "We look forward to further interactions, perhaps next time under less perilous circumstances." "Agreed," Lysandra said, nodding. "Though honestly, I'm not sure we know what to do with ourselves in a peaceful situation. True peace is an elusive concept," the Zalter replied, their voice echoing like the last notes of a song. "But one worth pursuing." With that, the connection flickered out, leaving the crew of the Endeavor alone with their thoughts and the gentle hum of the ship. "Guess that's that," Naya said, stretching. "Think we'll ever actually see a peaceful universe?" "Not in this lifetime," Fleck replied, already fiddling with some loose wires. "But then where's the fun in that?" Lysandra stood, feeling the weight of command settle back onto her shoulders, lighter this time for the shared burden. "All right, let's get a course set. We've lingered here long enough. Who knows what other cosmic jokes are waiting for us out there." They set to work, the familiar routine a comforting reminder that life goes on, even when you've just tangoed with death. The universe might be a cruel, indifferent place, but there was something to be said for enduring, for carving out moments of defiant laughter in the face of oblivion. As the Endeavour cruised forward, leaving the gravitational nightmare behind, Lysandra took a moment to reflect. Surviving wasn't just about staying alive. It was about finding meaning in the chaos, laughing in the dark, and sharing it with those willing to stand beside you. "Hey, Fleck," she called over her shoulder, "remind me to put in a good word for us with the Zalter. Maybe they'll send us a thank you card." "Or a fruit basket," Fleck snorted, waving a dismissive hand. "Knowing them, probably a book on courageous acts of recklessness, a human perspective." Naya rolled her eyes again but couldn't hide her smile. "If they knew us better, they'd know we prefer credits over philosophy." "Well, whatever they send, just make sure it's nothing that'll blow us up," Lysandra said, settling into her chair. "I'm all out of patience for surprises." As the ship continued on its journey, the stars ahead were a testament, not to destiny, but to the resilience of those willing to step into the unknown. The Endeavour might not be the most prestigious ship in the fleet, but it had heart. And sometimes, heart was enough to keep you going when everything else seemed lost. "So," Naya said, breaking the comfortable silence, "what's the plan after this?" "Hit the nearest spaceport, celebrate our survival." Fleck shrugged, still focused on the wiring. "Sounds good. Maybe we can find a bar that doesn't double as ground zero for the next catastrophe." Lysandra chuckled. "You know what? That sounds perfect. Someplace quiet with bad music and overpriced drinks." "A reminder that not every adventure has to involve nearly dying," Naya smirked. "Just as long as they have decent nachos. Deal. I'm in." Fleck's agreement was punctuated by a triumphant jolt as the final connection snapped into place. The ship sailed on, its crew ready to face whatever the universe threw at them next. Because in the end, that's what made them human, the refusal to give up, the relentless pursuit of something more. Even if that something was just a quiet moment in a noisy galaxy. And as Lysandra watched the stars stream past, she realized they didn't need a perfect universe. Just each other and the occasional good laugh. The universe might be a joke, but that didn't mean they couldn't have the last laugh. With the coordinates set and the ship on its way to safer waters, or whatever the space equivalent was, the crew of the Endeavour could finally let out a collective breath they didn't realize they'd been holding. "Hey, Lysandra," Naya said, leaning back with a grin. "Next time we do this, let's aim for a trip that doesn't involve dodging black holes." Lysandra laughed, a real, genuine laugh that felt good in her chest. "Deal. But knowing us, we'll probably end up in another mess anyway." "Wouldn't have it any other way," Fleck chimed in, a mischievous twinkle in his eye as he closed up the last panel. "After all, chaos is where we thrive. And survive," Naya added, her voice softening. "Here's to the next adventure, whatever it may be." "To survival," Lysandra echoed, raising an imaginary glass. "And to making it interesting." As the Endeavour carried them onwards, the crew settled into the familiar rhythm of life between the stars. There would be more challenges, more risks, and undoubtedly more mistakes. But there'd also be laughter, camaraderie, and maybe even a little glory. The universe might be vast and uncaring, but as long as they faced it together, they'd find a way through. A ragtag band of lunatics in a ship that should have fallen apart years ago but somehow kept going, just like them. And as the stars continued their endless dance, the Endeavour sailed on, a testament to the indomitable spirit of its crew. They couldn't control the universe's sense of humor, but they could damn well laugh along. In the end, that was what made them human. The relentless drive to keep pushing forward, to find joy amidst the madness, and to cherish each fleeting moment of triumph in a world that seemed determined to tear them down. As the ship drifted further into the unknown, Lysandra allowed herself a moment of peace. The universe might not have been kind, but it had given her this crew, this ship, this chance to live a little longer. And that was enough. For now, anyway.